Hey there, Kingdom Visionaries. Get ready to be inspired as Evie Foreman joins us today on our episode. Tune in for a journey from a life and death sea adventure to a purpose-driven mission, and how our past can shape an incredible legacy for the future. Don't miss this tale of resilience and power of heritage. It's all about planting seeds for generations to come. Right here with your girl, Nicole. Let's dive in. All right, here we go. Okay, and hello. Welcome to the Kingdom Visionary Show, where we interview dynamic women who are on a mission, on a call from God to put their light and put everything that they have out into the marketplace that God has called them to do. Today, I have Evie Foreman, Evie, as we like to call her, and she is going to be talking about something phenomenal, something I don't think that many people are talking about right now, something that you may not even be thinking about, but by the time she's done talking about what she's going to talk about, you're going to want what she has to offer. It's an amazing gift that she has to the kingdom, something that we will be able to pass along generation after generation after generation. So I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to let Evie tell us a little bit about herself, and we'll go from there. Go ahead.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for having me present on your show. I feel really honored, number one, to be in relationship with you and to be in community with you. And number two, for you asking me to come and talk to you about a vision that I did not know was mine to do until just recently. So you asked me to share a little bit about my story. And I frankly don't know where to begin because, my story started probably before I was born.
Exactly, right?
And we only have an hour.
He knew you when you were in your mother's womb. So yes, it
Yes.
started way before. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sorry, I'm a little sniffly. When we came in this morning, I was running, and I got here. And after the prayer, I felt his presence. So I'm moved right now by the Spirit, which is perfect, So just take a breath, right? And just be present to the presence. So
good.
My story, where should I begin? Okay,
just tell us a little bit about you and your upbringing. I know you have an interesting story about how you came into this country, and I think that's something phenomenal to hear, and just how God kind of brought you through all that would be great.
Okay, so I always think that I'm an ambitious soul, but maybe I just took a really really deep assignment. They're just like me, right? Just take the most challenging assignment one can take in life. So I dropped in Vietnam. I was born in Vietnam during the war. And at that time it was I was born in 73. So that makes me a big 50 this year.
Congratulations.
And so thank you. And there's been a phenomenal shift at turning 50. I mean, we hear it all the time. But for me, it's totally, aligned and true. Anyway, yeah, so I dropped in during the war, and our family was in Vietnam at the time. So I'm Chinese. I'm Cantonese Chinese, which is South China. Those are my roots. I speak Cantonese. I speak a little bit of Mandarin, and I actually speak an extinct language, Hakkanese. So most people don't even know how to speak that. The Hakkanese of today, who are people who live in Hong Kong, don't speak Hakkanese. But because but because my grandmother was alive when I was young, she was alive until I was 9 years old. She spoke to me exclusively in Hakkanese. So I understand it. I speak a little bit of it. So when older people see me, they just think I'm American and that I don't speak a lick of anything. And when I start conversing with them in Hakkanese, they really embrace me, because I'm just going to go into my story about being Hakkanese. And I don't think you even heard about that.
No, I haven't heard this yet. No.
Yeah. So the word Hakka, which means guest people.
Mm.
So literally, because back in the old days, we were like tribal. We went from one village to another. So we were nomadic, kind of like the Mongolians, right? And they were considered guest people. Well, during the whole, I don't know, wartime in China and all those different emperors that came in, there was a huge diaspora, kind of like the
Mhm.
Jewish diaspora, like all the Haqqanis just spread out everywhere.
Yes.
And because we were such a close-knit culture, um, even if you don't know someone, but you know that they're from the Haqqani's lineage, you call them your own people. Like we are all considered one big family,
Mhm.
regardless if we are in each other's lives or not because of the
Oh, I love
bloodline.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes me feel like, oh wow, I have kin everywhere.
Yeah.
Kind of like I can see you as kin because we're like, like soul friends, right?
Yes.
Soul sisters in a
Yes.
way. So that's what Haqqanese is, which is really amazing. Like I can meet I can go into the story. I'm not going to go into that story, but because then it'll be another 3 hours. It's actually
That's
really
okay.
fascinating. Um, so that's my Haqqanese lineage that came from both my mother and my dad's side. So I was born during the war, and in 1979, I was 5 years old. My mom decided that it's time to leave the country, and we weren't just allowed to leave. Like you can't really apply for a passport, and it's not the same type of culture, because what had happened in Vietnam at the time was that it changed from being a democracy to being a communistic society.
Hmm.
And so the people who were merchants there, the Chinese, were really unhappy about that, because you can't keep your wealth. Like they converted all the paper money into nothingness so that everyone had equal everything. So my mom, being the smart business entrepreneur that she is, I mean, I came from a long line of entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
She was really successful. She was a beautician.
Mhm.
Um, and she started doing hair when she was 12 years old. Like she ran
Oh,
her own, like this is a different time, different country, right? Her dad died when she was 8, very, very young. And she had uncles that like brought her up in this, salon.
yeah.
So by the time she was 12, she was calling the shots, she was running the place, and she was really successful. She's ultra talented. I mean, this could be family myth, I don't know, but I was told that she was so busy that she really didn't have time to do very much. So she worked all the time, day to night, and there were lines around the building, that kind of thing. So when she was, why was I telling you about that? There was a reason for that. So that she was 20, and then she got married to my dad. Um, and oh, I was telling you about the money changing over. So she took her wealth, like the money that she made, and she immediately turned it into gold. So she bought gold with that money, like
Oh,
as a
wow.
foresight
That's
before
smart.
the regime even turned over. So
Mhm.
she had gold and jewelry, diamonds, etc. So she took that and she bought her way on a refugee boat, like on a boat that was leaving the country. So when I got old enough in college, I did some Asian American studies, and you could only leave the country if you had money, and otherwise you were just stranded there. So she bought a place for me, my 2 sisters, and her mom. So we left the country, and we boarded this boat. It was a tiny fisherman's boat. There were 146, mostly women and children on board. There were, of course,
Mhm.
some men. And 10 days out at sea, the boat breaks down
Oh,
and
wow.
it stops, right? So I know.
Yeah.
So it stops. So we're stranded there. We don't know what to do. Um, and 10 days came and gone. I mean, just imagine, like, if you can take yourself there, like, what are the sanitary conditions,
Yes.
right? Just that alone. And then, like, I don't really know because I didn't get a chance to ask her. She passed when I was 16. But like, I
Mhm.
just think, like, what about water? Like, where do we get the
Mm.
water, right? Anyway, so like when we were stranded there at sea for 10 days, groups of pirates came to pillage and plunder and rape people on the boat. So this all happened, and I had a really high fever. I almost died.
Oh, wow,
I
Evie.
don't, yeah. So like this whole thing happened. and it was really interesting. Yeah,
Take
I
your
mean,
time.
I have a lot of memories
Yeah.
from that period. Like, you would think that I would repress all of that or suppress it, but I remember going on the boat. I remember going on the bus to go on the boat. I remember sneaking on the boat. I remember being there. I don't remember the pirates so much. Oh, what I was gonna say is you think of like Pirates of the Caribbean pirates, but these were just normal fishermen that took advantage of people who were down and out, which is ungodly.
Mhm.
But it happens, right? So 10 days we were stranded there. And then one day, we're all just sitting there, right? What else is there to do? We're kind of stranded. There was like a gasp in the air, like, hey, look over that way. And like we look in the horizon, and it was a really bright and sunny day. So you see the blue water, you see the sky, and then out in the horizon, there was like a silver sliver on top of the water. And we're like,
Mm.
what is that? And as the silver approached our boat, we realized that it was the United States Navy.
Oh, wow.
So we were rescued by the US Navy, thank God, right? So then we were taken to Pattaya, Thailand, for about a month. And
Mhm.
then Pattaya said, we don't have space for these refugees. You've got to make arrangements to get them out of our country. You know, they can
Mm.
stay here temporarily. So the American government did. We found a church that sponsored us, and we left after a month. And I went on my first airplane ride when I was 5 years old to
Oh,
on Pan Am. I got my wings. I still remember. I remember the coloring book, and I can't imagine, like, I can't believe how much I remember from that
remember.
experience.
I
Yeah,
think God
huge
wanted
memory.
you. Those are the things that these things, because you're talking about it now today, it has value and somebody needs to hear that. God,
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Nothing is by accident. So for you to
yeah.
remember it, yeah, because it was for you to share.
Yeah, and here's the miraculous part, right? So I there's a group of us that still stay in touch with the captain of the Navy ship.
Mhm.
Like through this whole time, I was young, I didn't know, but they go to reunions every year. And I think about, I don't know, 6 years or 10 years ago. I don't remember because I'm not part of that contingent because I was a child. There
Mhm.
was a document circulating around, and it was the captain's report of that day. And so I was flipping, it's pretty thick, right? So I was
Yeah.
flipping through the pages just to see like what the circumstances were. And apparently he had disobeyed direct orders that day. And he went the route he went where he found us. So if he didn't disobey orders, he wouldn't have found us. And we would have still been stranded, or I would probably have not made it because I was really sick of a high fever.
Oh.
So I look at that and I'm like, wow, what kind of impact can one decision make? If you're called by spirit to do something, you
Mm.
better listen because lives are at stake. I mean, literally, so like
Yes.
that is a really good, for me,
Mhm.
that is a really good example of faith-filled, spirit-led direction.
Yes. Yes. Amen. You know, I love that example. If God is, yes, pay attention to where you're supposed to be going, and one decision
Yeah.
can make a big difference in the
Yes.
trajectory of your life. So I think that's why
Yes.
it is so important for us to make sure that we are connected to the Holy Spirit and that we're following his lead with everything that we do. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's just as simple as just taking a pause, right? Taking a
That's
pause
right.
throughout the day and just asking, what's next?
Hmm.
What's the next thing? What's the
Yeah.
next place? Who
Yeah.
am I talking to next?
Yeah.
Um, so this
Yeah.
is phenomenal. I didn't know
And
the depths of this story, so this is really good.
yeah, and like, it's like you're talking about listening, and I always I go, okay, well, I've got to be still. Like for me, I need to go into the silence because that's where I commune with spirit. And it's always in that still small voice
Mm,
that is not very loud, it's very gentle. It's the Holy Spirit, the still small voice that
mm.
I get to listen to. And when I'm loud and I'm clamoring and I don't pay attention, I miss it. like I miss whatever the message is. So that's like another thing for us to not just say that we're hearing or listening, but really get still and get into our heart space, because that is where I believe God resides. He works through the heart and through our, our core, our center. So
I love this too. I love this conversation. I love kind of just opening up and talking about your story. And I really feel like God has led you in opening up in the way that you did with that particular story. Because one of the things that I saw is the beauty in the fact that you know a little bit about your ancestors. You know about where you came from, who your people were, what they were like, and what they weren't like. And one thing that I always say, my married for the last 18 years. My husband is from Zimbabwe,
mm,
and I was born here in the States in Kentucky. And one of the things that I have always wanted was to know a little bit more about my lineage beyond we just
yeah,
were slaves, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't even know where we came from, like what
yeah,
region. And
yeah,
my understanding is that we came from all over, not just one region. So
yep,
to know that and to have that kind of history, right? Um, really helps you, I think, what I've noticed, like in my husband, he stands in this sort of confidence that I had to grow into
mm,
because he knows who he is. He knows that he's from the Shona tribe. He knows about the Shona tribe, the history about it. They have a whole different language in themselves. He understands where he comes from.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
Now we all inherently come from our Father in heaven. Like I get that.
yep,
However, there's a piece here too that, like you said, that is connected, where we become connected to um, our ancestors. And I'm not talking about ancestral worship or anything like that. I'm saying
right,
there's a line that we come from, and a lot of that is even mentioned in the Bible. That lineage where Jesus came out of was important, right? And in that lineage, they had even, uh, commissioned a way that they were supposed to behave. They didn't always do that.
right.
So there were things that came through that, and what a beautiful thing that you have that to carry forward with you and then into your children. Um,
To know,
to
to
know
have that.
it's a wonderful thing. Like I know back to my great grandmother
Hmm.
who lived in Mississippi, but beyond that, that's it. That's as far as I go.
Yeah.
And I've thought about doing some of those
Yes.
ancestral
Yes.
things. However, the Lord told me no. I don't know why, but He told me no. So I can only figure that He plans to give me this information a different way.
Yeah. I
So
actually have some perspective and some thoughts about that, if I may offer that.
yeah,
And
sure.
like this is just what just grounded in me right now is, Nicole, you're a change agent.
Oh,
You're here to create change and to create transformation, not just within yourself, but for the world.
oh, thank you.
So, like when we can't change what we know or don't know, when we can't change what we can do or not do, if things are as they are, right? People say that. If things are as they are, we get to shift our perspective of it
Mm,
and like we get to create our reality. So like one of the big gifts that I see in Black Americans,
mm,
right, is this melding of these beautiful rich people and their cultures down to their tribes. And no, maybe you don't know specifically from this tribe or the other tribe, but you're a blend of richness of this amazing, like these amazing cultures. And that just gives me chills. Like it's so beautiful if you think about it, because you're not just one, you're encompassing all of that, and a lot of Black Americans today have a little bit of Caucasian, right, in them as well. And it's just like the blending, the unity of the bloodline. And that's okay too, because you can take from it all the strengths. And what if, okay, this is me, because I always think differently than most people, right?
yeah.
What what if it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, well, here are 20, I don't know how many tribes there are in Africa, right? So like maybe there's 20, maybe there's 10, maybe there's
Oh,
3.
wow. Way more than that. Yeah.
Right. So then you go, okay, well, you go into prayer and you just, Father, which ones should I look into this month or this week or this year? And then you get to learn about every individual tribe, and you take the strengths and you can go, oh my gosh, I have this. So you get to create that reality for you and shift, because you do have all of that.
Yes.
Like the mechanism of how you got here is or like, what do we learn, right? The mechanism in leadership, the mechanism of how you get from one place to another is the mechanism, but the fact of the matter is you're here, you're blessed, you're divine, you're a child of God, you're of royal blood, right? Straight from the lineage of Jesus, because we're
Yes.
believers.
Yes.
So there's the blessing. And with that, all of that identification is just in our head. Hang on one second. I don't know why my phone is ringing right now. So like having an understanding of like the Hakanese, that is, yeah, it is a blessing, I will admit. But I don't like, short of knowing that, I can do research for it. But my ancestors like are in my blood. Like your
Yeah.
ancestors are all those people that lived before you. Doesn't even
Yes.
matter what the culture is, because so many people have loved, so many people have died, so many people have fought wars just for you to be here today
Yes.
and to
Amen.
stand as the possibility of them. Like you are their dream, which
I
is
think,
amazing.
yeah, for me, it's been the easiest thing to do has just been to hook into the kingdom, because that's
Yeah.
a true lineage. Because as we speak, I mean, if we go back, it started with one man, one woman. So ultimately, we're all one and the same. I mean, if you really want to get
Yep.
technical
Yep.
about that part. So I so with that, I know that we can go back to that, and but for me, God is the center of it. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's fascinating. I love hearing about my husbands. I love hearing about what
Yeah.
learning about you and your tribe, and going back there, because there is richness to that. I mean, there's richness into
There is.
knowing
Mhm.
who where you came from, what those people did, how they ate, what was important to them, what wasn't. You know what I'm saying? It was interesting to hear. Okay, so they were
Yes.
like nomads, so to speak. So they were always, and then to take that on and say, is that a part of me now? You know what I'm saying? Am I naturally like that, right?
Yes.
Because there are generational things there are things that go through generation, and
Mhm.
we hear a lot about generational curses, right? But we don't hear about generational blessings, because if curses come through generations, then blessings can come through as well.
Right.
And the natural order of our behaviors, or who we are and who we're not,
Yep.
um, can as well. So anyway, but I just think it's
Yeah.
so fascinating.
I love this conversation
Mm,
because it leads right up to the whole legacy. Okay, so the project that I'm working on is
mm,
called Legacy Love Project.
yes.
And it speaks into exactly what we're talking about today is your legacy. So, we talk about legacy or we say the word legacy and we think, okay, well, I'm going to leave my will and my estate plan and my belongings, all the assets that I have, to the next generation or to philanthropy or whatever it is. But more more abundant than just the money that you make in this lifetime or the inherited assets that you receive. You are the blessing. You are the gift. You are the abundance, because your life, this is why we value human life, right? It's priceless. It's valued. It's highly valued. We live this life. We have this rich experience that we call our life, from the time that we're born to the time we pass over,
Mm,
and we can't take it with us. So one of the things that I'm working on with my Legacy Love project is to be able to guide people into creating an ethical will. And what an ethical will is basically a document. It's like a love letter. It's a
yeah.
legacy letter to say, hey, this is me. this is what I believe in this lifetime. These are my experiences that made it important for me to, like, these are the pivotal points in my life that I became who I became. These are the decisions that I made. These are the milestones that I got to cross in order to be the person that I am today. And these are my life lessons. And here's my gift to you. I'm passing it on to the next generation. And it's like, I thought that was really important because it stems back from my mom passing away when I was 16 years old.
Mhm.
Remember, her dad passed away when she was 5. My grandmother when I was 9. So, like, short of knowing my grandmother, I really don't have any living elders.
Mm.
And you know, like in the Chinese Asian culture, the elders are really revered, right?
Yes.
They're wisdom teachers in
Mhm.
many ways because they've lived a long time and they have all of this knowledge of custom. And I, like, even myself, I don't feel like I got any of it. I grew up here in America.
Mm.
And so I just, so here's what started the whole thing. My mom lived and died for the family.
Mm.
That was her role in the whole ancestral lineage. So, you know, like, there's this whole diaspora from China going down to Vietnam and then from Vietnam to here. If she didn't make the decision that she made at that time, I wouldn't be here. And, like, because I'm here now, everything has shifted. Like, I could be in another country, whole different life, if you can even imagine. I probably wouldn't speak English.
Mm.
Um, so when she passed over, I mean, she's the most important person in my life. She still is. It's
Yes.
been, gosh, it's been like 36 years, maybe even
Wow.
longer that she's been gone. Um, yeah, I, like, my husband and I have been married for over 17 years. We've known each
Mhm.
other for over 18. And I remember when we crossed over in that anniversary, I was like, oh, we've been married longer than I was around when my mom was alive, because she
Oh,
passed when I
wow.
was 16. And it was
Mm.
like, it was really moving for me, right?
Mm.
So she passed away and I carry her in my heart. I talk to her every day. You know, like, I talk to her as if she's still here.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
was just like, oh, I really would love it. It would be really a blessing if my children would know her, or if
Mm.
my husband would know her, or etc. Right? Like, she's present in my life, but they don't get to know her. So I was like, okay, well, if I live my life and I run my hardest, my children's children would probably not know me.
Yes.
So, you know, like, we're human, and with being human, we always think, okay, well, what is it for me? And then I was thinking, I wish that I could leave something for my children that is of my mom, like take her brain or something, you know, and, like, share it with my children. That I can't turn back time, but I can certainly leave a bit of myself behind. So
Yes.
it starts with the ethical will, in terms of how you leave your legacy. And so, like, this whole process started, and now I've finished the first draft of my book.
Mhm.
It's a 3-book series. I started with the second book because it talks right into creating a wisdom legacy for your children and your
Okay.
family.
So that's what it's called. So you said so there's a wisdom legacy, but you said it
Yes.
starts with an ethical will. Okay, give me the
Yeah.
definition of an ethical will.
It basically, okay, if you think about a will where you will your stuff, like your physical items, your
Mhm.
assets, your stocks, your real estate, to the next generation, the ethical will is basically a letter. It's a legacy letter saying, okay, well, I am sharing with you my life.
Mm.
So it has to do with leaving a bit of your consciousness behind
Yes.
for the rest of the people that are left over. Because when someone crosses over, you're crossed over, you're going to heaven, you're
Mm.
going back to, you know, see the Father. But
Mm.
your loved ones, they're the ones that get to stay behind and complete whatever is outstanding. They're the ones that are left holding their heart because they still get to grieve through and grow
Yes.
through the experience of your passing, that
Yes.
transition. So imagine the gift it would be to give this to your loved one, your child, your husband, your children's children, to know, oh, this is Grandma Nicole. And
Wow.
when she was 20, look at what happened with her, whatever it was, like for me, I can imagine my children's children would say, wow, my life here is possible because my great great grandmother, Amy, which is my mom, did this thing that enabled my grandmother, which is me, to be here. And it seeded my existence here, right? So because my grandma, Evie, right, me, made these decisions, my life is the way it is because of that pivotal decision. Like we're not privy to what happened 3 generations down.
Exactly.
And with this legacy process, now we can categorize our life for the future generations, and not just in a way where it's rote, but really, who are you? So in order for you to be able to have this wealth to pass on, this wisdom legacy, you've got to find that within you. Like, what is the wisdom that is within you?
Mhm.
What
And you
life
take
lessons?
people through that process, correct? So
Yes,
that's a part
absolutely.
of,
Yep.
so because I'm seeing, for me, I'm thinking right now that
Mhm.
this is amazing. This is something definitely want to do. Sign me up. And at
Awesome.
the same time, I'm thinking, oh, how overwhelming, right?
It is. It is
Because
overwhelming.
what do I
Yes.
say? Where do I start? What do
Yep.
I not? Like
Yep.
what, like you said, what do I really feel? What did I really feel in those kind of moments? Or what's
Yep.
important to share and what's not? So
Yep.
what
Exactly.
you do, my understanding is what you do is you actually walk them through that for some very specific points
I
that can
do.
create a very robust story. So it
Yep.
doesn't have to be overwhelming for them, and they
Yep.
kind of get to the other side of this process,
Yep.
something that they can leave with their families. Now, is it all written, or is there is there an animated piece to this at all, or is it right now, is it just written?
Well, so I have a program that takes people from beginning to end, and it
Mm,
takes you into the vision, because in order to leave a legacy of your wealth, of who you are, you've got to start. Everything starts and dies with vision. So depending on the person, depending on what they want to leave behind, that's where we start. And so I walk people through the process of creating a vision. And then it's right now, the program that I have is 6 months long.
mhm.
And it walks you from your vision to every part of your life, so that it's not like, okay, I got to do this in 2 hours, or I get to do this over a weekend, because that is overwhelming. So that you go into it being very intentional,
Mhm.
and you think about, okay, well, what is really important to me to leave for, like, my descendants to know, not just for my children, but what about my children's children? Like, what is really important to me that I get to leave behind?
Yeah.
And then when you think about that, it actually gets you in line with your values, because you can't really give what you don't have. You can't, like, I guess you would be
Mhm.
out of integrity that if
Mhm.
you write all these things down and you're not really living it.
Yeah.
Because when you decide to leave a will for someone, it gets you into the consciousness of, oh, I get to live up to this vision, up to these values that
Yes.
are so important to me, that I'm not just teaching my children, but I'm actually walking the talk. So I really think that this is a means to an end of creating a world that is of a higher consciousness,
Mhm.
that we're not, we stop. I mean, okay, let's just talk about society today. Everyone's all about me, 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 me. But
Yeah.
when you think about a vision and you're leaving a legacy for your children and your children's children, what kind of world do you want to leave that? Like, what kind of world do you want to leave after you pass? Do you want to
Mhm.
leave a world that is motivated by fear? Or do you want to leave a world that is motivated by service and to be of service to one another?
Yeah.
And if you magnify that, what if everybody acts in fear? What kind of world is that? Or what if everybody acts in service?
The
What
one
kind of world would
acts in
that?
fear, kind of what we're looking at now, when everybody acted in fear.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So, like, we get a chance to, like, really be um magnets for this kind of work, because we magnetize and we amplify those that are like us. So, going back to our faith walk, God's in charge. So, get into prayer, get into that vision, and God will call you forward. Is
Yeah, I love it that you're
process.
talking about vision. With that's kind of, a big piece of what I do, right? Is getting people to a place where they really understand what their visions are. And I know
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about working together on a lot of that, and you kind of really working that out with people with their visions because it's so important. And we don't even think a lot of times about a personal vision, right? We think
No.
about, you think about mission and visions when it comes to business, but
Mhm.
it's like, what is your own personal vision? And then what's
It's
your
your
vision
life.
for your
Yeah.
family? I think about
Yeah.
in the word, where it talks about, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That's a vision.
Yeah.
That's vision casting for,
Yeah.
and he didn't just say me, he said me and my house. So he
Mm-hmm.
casted that vision for his lineage, for his people, for his family, right? This is what we're going to do. And so vision is so important, and
It is.
it's all throughout the word,
It is.
visions being casted all the time.
It's so funny
And
that
yeah,
we're
go ahead.
talking about this because the name of the book is Wisdom Casting.
Hmm, I love
Um,
it.
is what is it? See, now I lost it. I just
Mm,
was working on it this
mm,
morning because there's a subtitle that has to do with leaving a legacy beyond generational wealth because
uh,
you're leaving wisdom legacy. So
yes.
yeah, and it's wisdom casting. It's exactly what it is. And like all my life, I have a lot of talents, right? So I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm like, show me, God, just tell me where to go and I will go. I will stand there, will not ask any questions. I should have like renegotiated that, right? I
Yeah.
never need to know because I just obey.
I know,
It's like,
right?
okay, I hear it, I'm going. And I never understood what that was all about. And wherever I am, I'm just present to the process, which has been a
Yes.
real big blessing. Where I've like gathered my raw ingredients, so to speak, and now I'm standing at the precipice of like understanding what that was all about,
Yes.
getting and like going, okay, well, this is my next step. So I can see all of these experiences coming into pouring into this project, which up until just recently, I didn't understand. I didn't understand that vision is so large, that calling. So, fear as I may feel, I'm just going to take the next step forward because I'm backed by heaven.
Yes. Amen. There you go. I love that. You're backed by heaven, right? Miracles find us.
Yeah, exactly.
As we walk
Exactly.
through this. So, yeah, this is so precious, Evie. I love this download that the Lord has given you, and in this season, this mission that He's given you to carry out. And I know that you're a long-standing entrepreneur. I mean, you've been an entrepreneur since you could walk almost, right? So you've
It's in my
always had
blood.
some. So yeah, it's in your blood. And it's such, you ever think, I just think it's such an honor um, to be in this space, right? Where we
Mm,
get to create for God, where we get
yeah.
to serve for God in the marketplace. Um, Tell me, we're getting close on time, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to miss out on this. Tell me
Mhm.
a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey as it pertains to where you are now. If Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, okay. So my professional background is like I was sharing with you that I've done a lot of things. So when I was in college, I was a business administration major and I majored in international business, marketing, and economics. So that's my background.
Yes.
I have a bachelor's in that. And I started out working for, my first job out of college, almost out of college, was working for Prudential Insurance.
Hmm.
I was selling insurance. I was selling life insurance and annuities and all of the mutual fund, et cetera. And then, and then it changed because then I started working for corporate and I moved from California to Arizona. I was in Phoenix.
Hmm.
And then I moved to Boston. And then
Boston
proceeded
to
to,
Arizona. Wow, what a big difference.
yeah, well, Arizona to Boston. And as
Arizona
a
to
matter of fact,
Boston.
there's a funny story to that, and I'll tell you in that the next time.
Mm.
Next time we talk, ask me the story of what happened during the first snowstorm when I got to Boston,
Okay.
because I was still in a Mustang convertible in a snowstorm. I'm from California, so anyway, that's a whole different story. I know we're running close to time,
Okay.
but I'm gonna see where I can go quickly because I want to condense my story. So during the dot-com boom, I had an opportunity to work for a dot-com company. This was like Y2K, year 2000. There was an opportunity with a startup, and they said, "Hey, you guys, do you want to work with us? Because we need a marketing person." I'm like, "Sure, I could do marketing."
Mm-hmm.
So I started their marketing division, and it was just, it was a startup. So it was an incubator situation. I did the marketing, and it was out of the Brookline, Alston, Brighton, Boston area. It was called Apartment Access, Roommate Access Online Company. We grew it from two employees to two offices. There's 25 people. So I was now commuting from Boston to New York City. And then I worked for that company. I ended up running it, and we sold the company, got VC funding, etc. And then what happened after that? Sheesh, 9/11 happened. And, my family wanted me back on the West Coast. So I moved back to West Coast and ended up in Hawaii.
Oh,
And I know,
that's wonderful.
I know, right? I ended up back in Hawaii, and I did some marketing for realtors. I did some entrepreneurial, marketing for realtors, and ended up being a realtor myself, working on large projects, marketing. Of course, it's like kind of my thing.
Yes.
And then I got pregnant, had my baby, and my husband and I started a company. He is in the construction industry. So he ran that company. I helped him with the marketing on that. And we've been blessed, really, really blessed that it's been an abundant journey where, because we were doing it online, we could travel like wherever we wanted to. It's a blessing and a curse, because we basically said, okay, well, where do you want to go this year? We'd pick a place on the map, and then we would move there, fulfilling our lease, and we would move there and experience life. Because for me, part of being alive is the journey of living, the experience of life itself. So having the privilege of living in different areas of the United States, I really understood and experienced different cultures and different people. So I have friends all over because of that blessing.
I love how this connects back to your lineage and your ancestors.
Right, moving
Yes.
around, guest
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So where am I? Let's see. So yeah, so that basically is the journey. And then somewhere along the way, I had two kids. And here I am. So yeah.
That's awesome. And I know at some point too, you had a pretty popular was it radio or talk show as well,
Oh
right?
yes, yeah.
You did some
Yep,
interviewing of people
yep.
like Wayne Dyer and
That's right. I went to ministerial school. And at that time, I had a radio show. It was called The Call of Spirit, Tune into Possibility. And it was a ministry. And, it's one of those things that was a calling, because I was in ministerial school, and there's a whole story attached to that as well. But I was called to do a podcast, and I didn't know why. I didn't have any experience doing podcasts. Spirit said, go do it. Okay, so I went to do it. The first interview out the gate was Gary Zukav. He's a big transformational self-development leader, and I was so nervous, so scared, because he had all these questions, and I made it through the interview, and then I proceeded to have people like Wayne Dyer come on the show. I've talked to Miguel Ruiz Jr., who is the author of Four Agreements. I don't know if you know that book. He was so fun to talk to. And a number of other people that are in this sort of they're thought leaders in
Mm.
transformation and leadership and just positive living.
Yeah.
So
So, okay, so how did you land that first interview? So how do you open up a podcast in day one, end up with such a big fish on day one?
I don't know. That's a God job.
That
A
was
lot of
God, right?
things seriously, like a lot of things happened in that way for me on this
Mm.
journey. And so, I don't know, like 20, 30 years ago, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to stop controlling my life
Yes.
and just let God be in charge. He's the driver. I'm here. I'm just the vessel for the hands and the eyes and the ears, the heart of God, and I'm here to serve. And so, like,
Mm.
one of the things that I aspire on the day that I cross over, I want to look back in my life and know that I have been spent and used in service for the good of humanity.
I
That's my
love that.
mission in life. You know, I don't have transactional relationships. I have relationships where I'm in service to people. And so if anyone does business with me, they're going to know that this is my heart, this is who I am, and I could pretty much, like, because I'm backed by heaven, it's not me that does the work, it's God. He sends me where I need to go. So I
Yes.
just do whatever I'm called to do. And um very gratefully, I have a lot of transferable skills. I still have my sound mind. Keep that
Exactly,
fresh,
right?
right? And
Yes,
in
yes.
this like 50-year-old change of life. And I'm so grateful. Like every single day that I get up, it's a blessing because it's a bonus. Because I like the last, how old was I? 5. The last 45 years of my life have been bonuses.
Yeah, I love that.
So,
I love
like,
that.
why would I not live every day in service to give back? So,
I love that.
yeah,
And I know that to be true for you. I've seen you. You are a huge giver. And constantly going into service for other people and thinking about how you can serve others. So I know that is your heart.
it's a
But
core
a lot of
value.
people, that's their heart, but you don't necessarily see the fruit a lot. But also, I've seen a lot of fruit with you in that area. So, but okay, so I want to wrap it up. Just want to be respectful of trying to fit this into an hour.
Yes,
We're gonna have
ma'am.
to get you back again. But is there anything before we go that you would have liked for me to ask that I didn't get to ask you, or something
Oh,
that you
yeah.
share with our
Yes.
audience?
Actually, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I'm getting my stuff together. My website is evelynforeman.com. So it's not up yet because I'm making tweaks at the back end,
Mm.
but there will be a 3-day challenge coming up to do ethical wills. And so I
Awesome.
already have sort of an ethical will worksheet. So if you DM me on Facebook, DM me, say legacy, um, then I'll know that that's what you're looking for, and I'll get that over to you.
Okay.
And then when I get that over to you, you'll sign up for it, and then you'll be on my list where when I run the 3-day workshop, you'll be invited to it, and then whatever else I develop, you'll have the information. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. That's really good. And like I said again, love what you're doing. And I know it's going to bless so many people being able to dig in the way you've designed this program and to create this legacy, this wisdom. What do you call it?
It's Wisdom Legacy.
Wisdom
Oh, Wisdom
legacy. Yes.
Casting. Are you talking about the
Yes, the
book?
wisdom casting and then
Yeah.
the legacy,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I just love it. I know that's something that God downloaded and dropped into your heart.
Oh, for
And
sure.
you being the servant that you are said, okay, Lord, let's go. We're doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I love
It's
that.
not me. I'm out of the way. If I'm in the way, it just gets all messy. So get
Yes,
me out
for
of the
sure.
way. Yeah.
I can identify with that for sure. All right. Okay.
Thank you,
So,
Nicole.
all right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. It's so wonderful. So okay, guys, this is it for today. Evelyn Foreman, we gave you some amazing information and nuggets. She gave you her information if you want to learn more about what she's doing about building your legacy and having something to pass down to your children and your children's children and their children. So anyway, let's just say goodbye for now and make sure to love on someone today. Make it a
Yes,
great day.
and aloha.
And aloha. Yes, I love it.
Oh, thank you.